Greetings, comrades. Unforgiving Caleb, back with another video. This time talking about a genre I really love, shoot 'em ups. You're currently watching footage from one right now. One of my personal favorites, Super Galaxy Squadron EX. This is an awesome game that we'll get into a little more detail later on. Anyway, I love shmups. They're so fun to watch and so fun to play. I played some of the classics like R-Type, Gradius, Galaga, games like that. I played so many of them that I love the genre almost as much as I love first-person shooter games. In the PS2 days, I played probably one of my absolute favorite shmups, R-Type Final. It had a staggering 101 ships to play as, with some bizarre ways to unlock them, but mainly playing a certain amount of time with a certain ship. The game had branching paths, cool enemy designs, and tons of replayability. Again, the aforementioned number of ships. In fact, I still own R-Type Final, and hopefully I'll find the time to buy a PlayStation 2 so I can use PCSX2, one of the best PS2 emulators out there that requires an actual PS2 to use. Fortunately, I just go to my local retro game store and grab one for like 20 bucks. Anyway, back whenever I played on the 360, I had a few favorites. One of my absolute favorites being Raiden Fighters Aces. It was a port of the 3 Raiden Fighters arcade games. It was one of the best shooters I've played, despite the age of the games included. The amount of ships to play with, the scoring system, the enemy designs, the bosses. To this day, I still love that game. Even though there's Raiden Legacy on Steam, the emulation in that collection sucks. Anyway, there were some other shmups I loved on the 360, like Death Smiles and Akai Katana, the former of which is on Steam. There were also some shmups in the arcade marketplace, like Aegis Wing, which was free, 1942 Joint Strike, Guwange, Galaga Legions, and so many more. I also remember Radiant Silvergun. Oh man, I really wish that were on Steam like Ikaruga is. Then there's the Xbox indie games, where there's no shortage of shmups on there, though a lot of them are crap. Of course, you probably saw the title of the video, PC, a shmup fan's paradise? And the short answer is yes. Before we go any further, yes, I'm aware of MAME, but I'm talking about Steam here. Whenever I transitioned to PC gaming a few years ago, I downloaded a few games that at the time would work on my old Dell PC. One of those games became one of my absolute favorites, Jets and Guns Gold. After doing a little research, I discovered that Jets and Guns was released back in 2004, with the Gold version releasing 2 years later. And then this game was greenlit for Steam back in 2012, releasing in 2014. I played the game and I fell in love with it. The graphics were cool, the gameplay is smooth, the humor's funny, for the time at least, and the customization was what really drew me in. A large selection of weapons and upgrades, as well as a decent selection of ships to choose from, including a boss ship. The campaign's lengthy, which is rare for a shmup, and has a lot of variety in it. Like, you do anything from, protecting ships from enemies to going underwater and stuff. There's a lot of variety there. Frankly, it's not often to find a shmup that hits all the right notes. Variety, customization, length, replayability, and overall fun. Not since R-Type Final have I played such an enjoyable shmup. Of course, there are so many other shmups on Steam. One title that comes to mind is Crimson Clover World Ignition. This was a little more recent, releasing back in 2011 and being ported to Steam in 2014. It is by far my favorite bullet hell shooter. With awesome graphics, cool music, and intense gameplay, I come back to this game every now and then whenever I have that bullet hell hitch going on. I couldn't play it until I got my Squadron PC, since my older PC simply couldn't keep up with it. There are other bullet hell games on Steam as well, such as Jamestown, the XC Trilogy, Really Big Sky, Reflex, Camwee, the list goes on. One of my more recent favorites is the game you're looking at now, Super Galaxy Squadron. When it originally came out, I loved it. The large selection of ships, the challenging gameplay, and the inclusion of an endless mode made it a great replayable shooter. A year later, the game received a major update, Super Galaxy Squadron EX. It improved the interface, altered the scoring system, added new enemies, and included cutscenes. It also added a proper bullet hell mode as well as a hardcore mode, which if you get hit once, you die. And then there's Cave, who recently started porting their games to Steam, starting with Ushihime-sama. Hope I pronounced that correctly. I've been hearing about this game for years and finally got around to playing it, and wow, it certainly lives up to Cave's reputation as a bullet hell shooter god. The sheer amount of bullets on screen really defines bullet hell. Death Smiles came next, and then there's Dodonpachi Resurrection, the latter of which, for some reason, will not download on my computer. Might be because of Windows 10 borking up the permissions, whatever. Hopefully I'll get to try that game once I build my new PC, which will be Windows 8 instead of Windows 10. And there's no shortage of bullet hells on Steam either. There's Danmaku Unlimited 2, the aforementioned X and K games, Blue Revolver, the Hurricane of Varstray, and many more. There's also some shooters that are very unique for the genre. One such game is Steriden, which combines traditional shmup gameplay with roguelike elements and a loot system. Basically, you can collect a variety of weapons from enemies, and whenever you defeat a boss, you can get an upgrade, which will range from increased health to stronger weapons of a certain type. Of course, I mentioned roguelike elements, meaning that if you die once, it's back to square one. There's another unique shmup called Psycho Starship Rampage, which I'll admit the name alone caught my attention. You can build your own ship and customize it the way you see fit, provided you have enough scrap to make the parts. You can unlock more upgrades as you progress. And then there's Beat Hazard, a twin-stick shooter I played back in the Xbox indie games that is powered by your own music. Imagine blowing up waves of enemies while listening to Amon Amarth or Sabaton. Of course, because of the flashing colors and bright lights, it's definitely not for epileptics. Now granted, where there are good games, there are also bad games, and the shmup genre is no exception. I played a few shmups that were underwhelming, to say the least. There's this Contra clone called 8-Bit Commando, which I mentioned in an earlier video. It's decent enough, but it didn't hold my attention for too long, but the soundtrack from Oz was pretty decent. There are also some underwhelming twin-stick shooters such as Bullet Candy and Pulsar, which, while fun for short bursts, brought nothing new to the table. There are a few other shmups I played that are unimpressive, be it via graphics or gameplay, like Sky Mercenaries, Infinite Shooter, and Power Up. So yeah, there are some good shmups and there are some bad shmups, but that's kind of how it is. Anyway, the huge selection of shooters on Steam make me feel that no matter what type of shooter you're into, you're bound to find it on Steam. And this is without including MAME or some of the freeware games out there. In my eyes at least, PC is definitely a shmup fan's paradise. If you like shmups, you're going to enjoy the PC. Just make sure you have a controller handy for most of them.